Welcome back to Citizen Weekend, and we're making our final remarks on civil society on the cross. I'll start with you, Irungu Houghton. How do we mend this relationship such that there's not so much suspicion?
Yeah. I think we have to continue to reiterate that we are not the country that restricts funding on the basis of dissent, and that a liberal democratic society allows for difference of opinion. It allows for freedoms to express ourselves, openly without fear that we're going to be abducted or that we will disappear for a month. I think that's the starting point. We're not Ethiopia, Russia, Zimbabwe, Israel. I had a whole list there. We're not those countries. We are a country that is actually founded on the rule of law. We are a constitutionally grounded state. And that's what I think we are fighting for. And that's what I would hope, that there is a partnership with those in government to say, yes, let's retain the rule of law. Let's keep this tense moment really within the path of constitutionalism and not authoritarianism or anarchy. The last point, I think, is just, as civil society organizations, I think we have to continue to call for accountability. It is not possible that 54 people have been killed in the last 22 days. 56 people have been abducted, and there is no accountability for this. So I think even as the Inspector General is about to be nominated and vetted, we have to say that somebody, some persons have to be held responsible for the violence that we've seen on the streets of several of our cities and towns. Somebody has to be held accountable.
All right. Which way forward, Waringa?
I think number one is that the government is guilty and cannot continue to operate, so it must go.
But how? And you guys say that Ruto must go, Ruto must go. But how? Because the Constitution has laid out mechanisms for how that happens. We do not yet have a functional IBC commission in office. How do we do it outside of that?
There are democratic steps that have already been laid out by the Constitution.
Even if President Ruto was to say, okay, snap elections, if that was allowable in the Constitution, it would still need an IBC in office. It would still be a process. But aside from that, which way forward where civil society and government is concerned?
There are processes to build grassroots democracies, and the social justice movement itself is always in the work of building grassroots democracies through building a clear alternative political leadership. Because right now the people have paid a heavy price. The poor people of this country and the working people of this country, they have paid a heavy price on the streets. So I think it is time for the Kenyan rich people and the philanthropists, to support and invest in the struggle for democracy and human rights. And they must stop leaving us in the mercy of IMF and World Bank, because we must fight for our democracy, and rights are not given, they are fought for. So they should invest and create our own Ford Foundation here in Kenya, because they have the money, so they can invest in this country, for sure, because even I am myself a lawyer, I am myself a mother, and I believe that even if the social justice movement were to be given this government, it will advance it, with a social justice and human rights program, and let nobody doubt or even think for a minute, that our Generation Z or every single Kenyan in this country does not know the way forward, does not know how to implement the Constitution. We know how to implement the Constitution. The government itself is a criminal government. It is operating outside of the Constitution, but we are operating within the confines of the Constitution. We are respecting the spirit of the Constitution. Even Ruto consistently insists on, advancing rule of law and democracy. But at the same time, he's not advancing rule of, he's insisting on law and order, but ignoring the spirit of the Constitution, ignoring the life of the Constitution. And the social justice movement itself is the life. The people give life, and the people themselves give life to this Constitution. So our generation knows how to implement it, and it will implement it, because we are a government in waiting. And
you're reminding me of something Irungu Houghton said in an article that was published today, that Kenya, the country will grow into the Constitution. All right, your final remarks on this subject?
No, I think one of the things that you accept when you're a democracy is that there'll be a permanent tension between organizations, groupings, formations in society that are involved in governance, in accountability, that are calling government to account. And that is the same thing for you in the media. That tension is essential for you to be able to do your work. There are questions when you have a government official here, there are questions you're asking that they don't really want to answer. Part of your job is to find that answer in the public interest. And I think that tension is an essential part of our democracy. What happens is that every 4 to 5 years, when you have an election or a referendum or whatever it is, those relationships are rebooted. And it's something that we have to accept is part of our lives. You cannot have NGOs or civil society or media and the government very happy with each other. You become suspicious. And we have many examples around this continent that demonstrate that. All right.
Thank you very much for taking your time to join us this evening. Irungu Horton, Executive Director, Amnesty International Kenya. We also have Waringa Waringa Wahome, lawyer. Look at me trying to school a whole lawyer. Who works for the Mathare Social Justice Center, and we have John Githongo, Chair Africa Center for Open Governance. Thank you very much, and I will move away from the discussion at this point, but we will continue online. Hashtag is Citizen Weekend at O Burrows, at Irungu Horton, at John Githongo, at Waringa Wahome. All right, Royal Media Group.